Hi everyone, Dale Norman here. I want to do another Man of Sin video, and I'm just really enjoying digging deeper at the moment because I'm not finding all the answers, but I'm hoping to get as close as I can. Um, I came across this sort of dynamic, looking at the lawlessness that already exists, and will there be a person called the lawless one? Basically, what is the difference, or is there a distinction between what has happened, what always happens, and will there be a defined moment when a man of sin will be revealed? All right, something that got me thinking. We see the words he, his, referring to a certain individual, that Paul maybe has a certain individual in mind. I mean, even verse 6 says, and you know what is now restraining him, so that he may be revealed when his time comes. And then verse 7 got me thinking, for the mystery of the lawless is already at work, but only until the one who now restrains it is removed. And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord Jesus will destroy with the breath of his mouth, annihilating him, again, him, pointing to an individual, by the manifestation of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is apparent in the working of Satan. Um, and then it goes on to list all these different signs, liars, people who do wicked deception, for those who are perishing because they refuse to love the truth and to be saved. For this reason, God sends them a powerful delusion, leading them to believe what is false, so that all who have not believed the truth but took pleasure in unrighteousness will be condemned. I'm just sort of interested with that dynamic of, how much of this is talking about the principle of lawlessness, the general principle of unrighteousness, those who enjoy the power of delusion and not believing the truth, and then also believing that there is going to be a actual person who is the man of sin. Because one thing we have to keep in mind here is that it says in verse 7, the mystery of lawless is already at work. Now, does that mean that the actual man of sin is already at work at that time? Because that would mean he's 2,000 years old, and if he is just a normal person, there's no way he could live that long. Or is it talking about the general principle of lawlessness was already happening and continues to happen all the time, but there's going to be some sort of restraint that will be removed. Now, some have said that that's talking about law and order, that we follow law. If that was to be removed, the very thing that keeps humanity safe, if that was to be removed, then all chaos would happen. Then he would be revealed. But it also talks about the coming of lawless, the coming of the lawless one is apparent in the working of Satan. The coming of the lawless one is apparent in the coming of Satan. I'm just wondering, could it also refer to the apostasy, the rebellion that is mentioned in the beginning of the chapter, was increasing? So could it be that it's not talking about a future rebellion that's going to happen, which increases? Was the rebellion already happening? It was at work already within the influence of Satan. And then for this reason, God sends them. So this is the people who refuse to believe the truth. Sends them a powerful delusion, leading them to believe what is false, so that all who have not believed the truth, but took pleasure in unrighteousness, will be condemned. The lawlessness leads to the unrighteousness of those who are being condemned. So, is it talking about the lawlessness of what goes on in the world, which many people love to follow because Satan has great influence, and that because of that, they refuse to listen to the truth, and that leads them to unrighteousness, and then they will be condemned? Or is it talking about a certain person who helps um, influence people to have more unrighteousness? Maybe were there people in the first century church who were promoting ideas that were not fruitful? I mean, we know that someone took Paul's words and twisted them, which is why he wrote the Second Thessalonians letter, because someone was preaching in his name, look, Jesus Christ has already come, the Lord has already come, and he was saying, no, it's not like that. Certain things has to follow. So I don't know. I'm just wrestling with these questions of, has it already existed? If the lawless one was already at work back then, that means he can't be alive today, or is it a more of a metaphorical sense? Like I said before, that passage is so vague. It's loaded, but we need it to go on longer. I don't think we're going to know fully the identity, and maybe Paul did not have an individual in mind. Another thought that I had: could the man of sin be referring to one of those people who does not believe? I mean, that would mean you would have to connect. Let's see, verse 8, and then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord Jesus will destroy with the breath of his mouth, annihilating him by the manifestation of his coming. That could be referring to the time of judgment. I mean, Jesus comes back on earth to judge the living and the dead, not necessarily when people die to go to the throne room and then get judged. Jesus says in the parables, the Son of Man will come back and then he will separate the sheep from the goats. So could it be that then there is a connection with verse 12, so that all who have not believed the truth but took pleasure in unrighteousness will be condemned? Could there be a connection with being condemned and Jesus annihilating them with the breath of his mouth? So that got me thinking, could the man of sin just be any person who just does not believe, rather than seeing it as a person who leads people astray? Could it be that they are just the people who are going astray? I mean, I suppose you would have to see verse 9 then. The coming of the lawless one is apparent in the working of Satan, who uses all power, and he lists all the signs. And look what it says: who uses all power, signs, lying wonders, and every kind of wicked deception for those who are perishing. For those who are perishing, because they refuse to love the truth and to be saved. And again, for this reason, God sends them powerful delusion, leading them to believe what is false. There seems to be a connection. He keeps referring to them, they. So, would the man of sin be the people who did not believe? Another interesting connection, because really the man of sin stops after verse 9. The coming of the lawless one is apparent in the working of Satan. It's almost as if you would also have to keep in mind then verse 6, what is restraining those people. I mean, if it is referring to just people who do not believe, what is restraining them? Because they have to come to a time of a worse rebellion. So that got me thinking, that could be an interesting way to look at it. But certainly, the mystery of the lawless is already at work. Maybe something, they're at work and they're restraining, until when the restraining is removed and the lawless one is revealed. Then it talks about the Lord Jesus Christ will come. Could the restraining be that moment when they come to God, perhaps, that they're fully revealed before God as being a person of sin? And one more final thought, about my thoughts having to go all over the place and trying to formulate them. Why would the devil need a man of sin if he's so influential in the world, which we know he is, and creates so much trouble and evil? Why would he? Why would he need to hire someone to do it for him? Um, Especially, I can understand if there were many men of sin who do evil things. But certainly, the idea that there is going to be one man only as the man of sin who will lead many astray. I just wonder, why would the devil need to do that? Why don't he just do it himself? He certainly has enough. He certainly has enough influence. So another thing to think about.